not currently on.
Legal late, sorry, Mary.
Or. All right, hearing none, we will go to ferry service update. I don't have an update from John, so I think that we are good on that front now. Sea level rise update. Our next committee meeting is going to be next Thursday, the 11th, and then we have a signed contract with GCA, the engineering firm working on the Narrows, and they are planning to be on the island for a kickoff meeting on January 18th.
Nice.
Any questions? All right, municipal building project update.
I have nothing to report right now. We're moving forward at getting a timetable and I should be able to bring something to our next meeting.
Sounds good. Upcoming meetings and subcommittee, sorry, were there any questions for? Sorry, I didn't, I wasn't trying to. Okay, upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports. We have a planning board meeting on January 8th. It looks like an energy committee meeting on the 9th and the Sea Level Rise committee meeting that I mentioned on the 11th. We do not have a town manager's report, since Janet is out sick. And no correspondence.
That's a question that may have come up in the town manager report. I don't know if you know the answer to it. We have an updated timeline from Farley regarding their completion of that drive. I went down about maybe a week ago. And it appears to the untrained eye or moderately trained eye to be like halfway done. And still very much in the throes of construction, as opposed to what they said last week or 2 weeks ago.
I did speak briefly with Janet before the meeting, and she said that January 10th is the date that they have given her for anticipated completion.
So,
But I don't have any further information.
Right.
Hopefully that is still a good date.
Week from today.
Any other questions? Correspondence? Okay, next up, under old business is to approve the revised photo consent and permission release form, which is in our packet with the yellow sticky note mark on it, which is, my understanding is after the last meeting, which I wasn't able to attend, that this was sent to our lawyer and this is what that they have approved.
the library committee likes it. They're very happy with it and are ready to stick the fork in it and call it done. So,
Right, so the draft instead of,
yeah,
Two separate?
they're happier with the formal draft. So the draft here is.
this is the one that they want.
Yeah,
This is the one that we sent to the lawyers. This is the one that they approved
yellow
and
is
sent
old.
back. The yellow one's the old.
Yellow is old.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I had it wrong.
Yeah, and they're,
I only, from the last meeting, because it was, they didn't want to have the two separate ones. They just wanted to have one that covered all of it.
Thank you for the clarification.
but yeah, they're ready to, if that's all we were waiting on, they're waiting for our approval. So
Have a motion?
motion to approve the trustee handbook with the updated changes.
Second?
Any further comments, questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's the one. Great.
All right, next up, under old business is the Pine Tree Waste Renewal Agreement, which I understand there was some discussion about during the last meeting, and I believe that we have Patrick Neal from Casella, is joining us via Zoom so that we can, ask questions and, move this topic forward. Thanks for joining us, Patrick.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
So I wasn't at the last meeting, but it appears from the notes that the major point of questioning was around the fuel surcharge fee, which I believe shows up under the total energy and environmental fee assessed on the Casella
Yeah.
bill. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So we enacted that during COVID when fuel prices went through the roof, when we weren't under technically a signed contract, and we've been getting nailed all the way around with fuel prices. So we get hit with fuel surcharges when we transport the material. And it's just general across the footprint. And I know there was some questions about how that's calculated. So they take total mileage to execute the job at hand. So out to your facility, back to our facility, dispose of it, and then transport it to wherever it gets transported, either the PERC facility, a landfill, depending on the material, or the recycling facility. So they take that mileage, they divide it by miles per gallon, and then they times it by the difference, whatever the Northeast average fuel chart or fuel cost is, minus the floor rate. So the floor rate would be that $4 per gallon. So say diesel is at $5 a gallon, it's $1 difference times that initial formula. So it's kind of it does kind of get messy, and I understand where, it can be a little bit confusing for towns. And I know the question always is, isn't this a cost of doing business? It is and it isn't. I mean, it is to a certain extent, up to that floor rate. We feel that's where we have our prices set. And then after that, it's our buffer to keep us whole and to keep us covered. Because like I said, our transporters of the waste and all of our vendors inflict that on us.
Thanks for that clear explanation, Patrick.
I have a question for you. I'm assuming that this is standard practice, that this is the same process that's used in other towns.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. And then I know most waste haulers, whether it's Waste Management or Republic, it's pretty much the same formula. As I explained to Miss Anderson, companies either do it one or two ways, right? So they're either gonna have a fuel surcharge, or if the town does not like having the fuel surcharge and they just want a flat rate, that's fine too, but we have to adjust the rate up to make sure that we're covered in the case that fuel does stay high like it is right now. So I have done that, and that is an option too if you guys do want to look at that. But I want to work with you guys, do whatever we need to do. I mean, just for reference, just so you guys know, when we originally signed the contract in 2015, the price was $600 to haul the material, and it's 2024. And in that, besides the fuel surcharge, it's only $660. So that's not very high. We haven't gone up significant over the last 9 years. And just in reference for us, I'm sure you guys know this with wage adjustments and labor and fuel and all that. I mean, a driver in 2015, I was paying them $14 an hour. Now it's anywhere from 25 to $30 an hour, just for a spectrum for you guys to understand.
And breaking out the surcharge so that we can see what that varies from bill to bill. So that's a way in which we can track what your costs are and what we're being billed for. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it does vary because it varies on whatever the fuel cost is. And like I said, we can go a different option if you guys don't want the fuel charge. I'm open to that as well, but I do have to look at adjusting the flat rate just to make sure I'm covered. So it's however you guys want to do it. If you want something consistent, I can look at adjusting the flat rate and doing away with the fuel surcharge, or we can keep the fuel surcharge. It either works in the benefit, or if fuel goes up, it doesn't. So like I said, if it drops below $4 a gallon, the fuel surcharge drops off. There is no fuel surcharge. So it just depends on what the economy is doing for diesel fuel.
So it seems as though it's more transparent to have the surcharge so we can, otherwise, if we have a flat rate, that does not reflect the changes in the cost of gas, fuel.
That's correct.
This is so not my bailiwick.
have this information available, like historically, what we have paid in fuel surcharges? Because it seems like it might be wise for us to figure out what we're paying annually in fuel surcharges and see if it doesn't balance out to be a better deal for us to pay a flat rate versus. Well, you know what I'm saying? Then
If you want, I could do it for you. I mean, I've helped Janet out. I know that's kind of a lot of legwork, but I have all the invoices at hand. And I could pull them for the last, since we enacted it like 2 years ago when COVID hit. Show you this is what you're paying in fuel surcharges. And if on average you're paying this, and if I was to do a flat rate of X, you would be saving or gaining.
It is kind of a double-edged sword, because one, if you do just the flat rate, then it's easier to budget. We know exactly what it's gonna cost per time that they come out and going through, but if you do the surcharges, then you have the variances that go up and down.
But it reflects maybe more, well, presumably more accurately actual costs.
Frank?
But I think that's probably what you're seeing with the 660 too, right? I mean, if it takes the driver 5 hours because of traffic or 3 hours this time because of traffic or a ferry reservation or not, seems like we're already paying a flat rate for actual transport and costs associated with it, other than if fuel's over $4 a gallon, which diesel is, so there's always gonna be a surcharge. But on the flip side, if it were to drop down, there's no drop out on the price.
There's just.
So if it went down to $3 a gallon or $3.25 a gallon, there's no coming back from that.
Right, there's no
That's-
savings with the flat
That's
rate.
correct. Yeah, that's correct. If I was to raise the 660 to whatever, 725 to make sure that I'm covered on the fuel, and you guys knew that you were budgeting at that number, that would be your number. But again, yeah, if the economy changed, fuel drops down to 350, there'd be no savings. It wouldn't drop off.
Yeah, I mean, understanding the formula, to me, kind of conceptually, I sort of would prefer to keep the energy and environmental fee. But I also agree with Pete that, having more information rather than less going into this, is always a good thing. So if you are willing to, kind of do a summary for us, Patrick, of what we've paid in the last, couple of years, and what you would propose for a flat rate, to give us, kind of two things to take a look at, that would be really helpful.
I can do that for sure.
per
Okay.
gallon that we'd be paying them. This is using the EIA's diesel average price, which would put us for January of 2024, it's showing Northeast region at $4.33 a gallon. So we'd be paying 33 cents per gallon that they're using.
Yeah, that'd be good to get that added
Yeah.
information. That's a great idea.
Okay,
And it, just for reference here, if on the right website, it appears it hasn't dropped below $4 a gallon since February of 22, and it's gone as high as up to like 6.40 something a gallon. So
Yeah.
right now, we could be paying 33 cents a gallon, but we could be, with the drop of a hat, going up to almost $1 or more per gallon we're paying.
Yeah.
Which could become pretty significant.
yeah, it could, I think it also depends on how, like, what the flat rate increase is,
Right.
on their end, because understanding that they also need to, hedge on fuel prices with the flat rate system as well.
Right.
And can I ask a clarification? So is it 660 for the trip, plus the cost of the weight, plus the cost of rental, plus ferry fare, plus reservations? Or is the ferry fare and reservations included in that 660?
No, you're correct. It's all those separate costs. But we only charge rental on the compactors because we own them. We actually don't charge you any rent on the demolition can and the metal container. And we handle all the service and maintenance on the compactors for you guys.
So that's good. Rate reviews.
Yeah, that would be.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Appreciate
that. Say so.
I'm not
Great.
trying to sway you guys in any way, shape or form. It's totally up to you. In my experience, I like the flat rate, but it just because I just don't trust the fuel market. But that's up to you guys. Like you said, you could save money if it goes below $4 a gallon. But I just have a bad taste in my mouth after a year and a half ago when it went above $6. It was nuts.
Yeah. Okay, well, I really appreciate you spending the time with us tonight
No
and
problem.
your just to give us some more information to consider, so that we can get this put to bed and, continue to make it work for both of us.
Can you send us, when you send along the, whatever historical data you have about what you've charged us in the past, the fuel surcharge? Can you send us an estimate of how much of the fuel that you use for each trip? So that we can get an idea of a per trip cost? If that makes sense. Like historically, what we pay as a lump sum or what we pay in our bills, but like, so we can do our math on if it's a 60-mile round trip, or is it 100 miles, or is it? So we can kind of see where it would be if it was a 33-cent charge, a dollar charge. You
Right,
know
so
what
what
I'm
you're,
saying?
so what you're asking for is the number of miles.
Like, what number would Casella use as our trip distance?
Yeah.
That they're gonna charge us the fuel surcharge on? So that we can see like a slightly better idea of is the flat it or,
Right, 5 miles is a lot different than 35. Is it
Yeah, I mean,
possible?
I can do if you would like, I could just do a forecast for you from your average of what it would look like if it was like, through 2024. If fuel was at 450 and then whatever the flat rate difference would be per trip, I think I can put a spreadsheet together and send it to you that way.
yeah, that'd be fantastic. Like you said, all, the more information, the better, you know?
Yeah. And I
Great.
can put multiple fuel prices in there. I can show what it would be at $5 for your average trips per year, what it would be at 450 and say 425, and then put the difference in there, 3 different prices, and so you guys can see all the variations.
Great. Thank you so much.
No
Are there any
problem
other
at all.
questions? Patrick?
No, appreciate it.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. You guys have a great evening.
Sylvia? Okay, next up is a bid opening for summer gravel. Delivered 1,000 cubic yards of inch minus. We have received one bid from John Applequist. Anybody like to do the honors?
You do right ahead.
All right. Open at, I think it's good to say the time, it looks like it was received on December 19th, and
Opened at 6:20.
perfect. And the bid is $28 per cubic yard delivered. So. I just want to, it looks like, John is on. I just want to make sure that I understand the bid. So this is for the material and the trucking, or the material and the trucking, but not for the ferry, is that, or is this all inclusive, or is this just for the gravel? Can you answer that question for us, John?
You muted.
Yes.
Oh, there he
Yeah,
goes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's for the trucking. The ferry tickets will be paid for by the town. So that's just per yard for the gravel hauled to the island.
So that includes the cost of the gravel and the cost of the trucking.
That just includes the cost of the trucking, not the gravel.
It's just the cost of the,
Yeah, I was under the understanding that you guys would pay for the gravel and the ferry tickets, and I'd pay for the trucking.
okay,
That's a request.
I'll purchase the gravel. Thank you, sorry. I saw the ferry and not the, okay,
Mhm.
so I think that the gravel fee is $11 per cubic yard. Is what we've been quoted there, and then the ferry ticket. The only thing I want to look at is just understanding how this relates to how much we have in our coffers here. So. I just want to, sorry, there's so many pieces of paper here.
I'm gonna ask a question at the risk of looking like an idiot.
Yep.
John, what's the total cost for 1,000 yards of summer gravel at $28 per cubic yard?
20,000.
28,000?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure.
1,000.
I had that moment of, is yards gonna compute as the same as cubic yards, and so. And you said that it was $11 per yard?
That's what it's what I have in my head, so I just wanted to look at that. So, yes, we have from Davis Dirt Works. If we were to pick up in his gravel pit, it would be $11 per. Again, he said per yard, I'm assuming he means per cubic yard.
Yeah.
Which is the unit that Janet emailed him to ask the price for, so. With assuming $11,000 for summer gravel. Last year, it looks like we spent $5,600 in ferry costs for trucking, and with the $28,000.
And knowing that the
Yeah, so
ferry costs are gonna go up.
ferry costs are gonna go up. At the last year's rate, it would be $34,600 for the all in, and we have budgeted $45,000, so we do have some wiggle room. Recognizing that the ferry rate is going to go up.
I think you're a little close. If he does 15 yards a truckload, it's 67 truckloads at 153, 450 a foot, 34 feet, I was guessing. For footage, you're like almost $10,100 plus reservations for ferry fare. Just throws, so you'll be close to that 45, but.
Cause even without the increase in the ferry fare, we're at 44,600. Doing it at 11,000 for the gravel, 28,000 for the trucking, and then staying at 56,000.
5,600.
Right, 5,600.
Did I do my math wrong?
There's a really good chance I did.
No, I've got 44.
Oh, no, I
change, too.
got 44,600.
44,600.
No, I did the math wrong. Yeah, so it is close with the,
Staying at the current ferry rate.
yeah. John, do you know when you anticipate doing the hauling? Thank you.
I can start hauling tomorrow. I can start doing it as soon as possible. I got 2 triaxles that could get right on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before the ferry rates go up.
Yeah.
Hurry, John, hurry.
How many trips would it take to do it?
I did not write it down. I haul about 18 yards per truck. So 1,000 divided by 18, I think it was around 50 or 56 loads. Just guessing.
That's right.
How many trucks do they have doing the whole?
So like roughly 30 trips or so.
30, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So,
Which is probably the same as what
Well, people can do 2 a day.
Hudson River was doing. It's probably still the 30 trips, and as long as we do it in the off-peak rates and say that we don't pay on-peak pricing.
But that's. You gotta get both of the trucks just for that.
yeah, no, I mean, I think,
We have to have that condition somewhere.
yeah. Are there any other questions for John?
I guess, John, for a rough calculation, it looks like you could conceivably complete the hauling in something like 2 weeks, plus or minus, but around 2 weeks.
Around 2 weeks, depending on ferry traffic and how it goes. How soon do you need it all hauled to the island? Like a window of like a month, maybe? Just in case there's any kind of issues with weather or ferry.
Before on-peak traffic, before on-peak rates take effect, honestly.
Yeah,
That's,
it will definitely be done before the change in the ferry price.
Right, and right, because we'll be increasing the ferry price, but that will be at least a month or two out.
Right.
While they go through their statutory process, so,
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Otherwise, it could be within 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if, yeah, if we can move as quickly as possible to take advantage of the lowest price, ferry tickets. Does anyone have a motion?
I move that we accept bid from, John Applequist.
Second?
Second, with the condition that it's done within a 6-week timeframe. Can we add that onto it or no?
It's too, I mean, you know, he expressed, could be ferry problems, could be, you know, I don't know if we can put that on, add that to the requirement.
Because if not, then I don't think we'll be within budget.
So can we add, I mean, we've already put out the proposal request, I don't know if we can really, that probably is a detail we should have.
Right, that had to be done beforehand.
But
Go, John, go.
That, you don't know if they're gonna change from summer schedule during the week back to winter.
Yeah.
maybe this is how we keep.
Right, the more hauling we do.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. We're very busy here.
I second the motion.
All right, any further discussion? Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if it necessarily makes sense to add it into that we can add it into the bid proposal since it wasn't part of the original package, but also just, I guess, if we start to run trucking outside of, and are looking at increased ferry costs, if, John, you can just be in close communication with Janet so that she can be tracking how things are going relative to budget.
Yes, definitely.
Right, okay. Awesome. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your bid.
Okay, thank you.
Should we make sure that I mark out an extension for that or abstaining from that vote?
Yes. Carrie, I don't know if you heard that clearly on the owl.
Oh, Carrie, you can mark me as abstaining from that vote? If you would, please.
Thank you. I didn't hear that. Thank you.
Right. these packets and my packets all mixed together, which is a helpful. Okay, next, no other business. Next up is to approve warrant number 14 for $502,702.71. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Any questions, discussion? Okay, all those in,
Other than that, it's not gonna impact my, through the payment, but are we still well within budget on the Farley project? Or do we know? We're still pretty on track with that, given it's about to extend longer than we thought. It's more of just like I got a vote to approve it, but I kind of just worried.
what was the original finish date? Just January 10th is,
I think it was the end of December.
So now we're getting to be, no, yeah, I mean, we're not over by too much, but given the state of it, they said they would get done in 6 days, but there's a lot more to go. We're closing in on that final round, and my wise to start communicating with them.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Janet is in close communication with them. I don't have any information about where we stand on billing, but,
It's not a pressing issue for right now.
Yeah,
It's not gonna impact us, but it's something we ought to. I guess.
any other questions?
Can I ask a question about the Farley thing? Is that possible?
Yes.
So when I read the whole bid opening contract, what people bid, I read that there was talk about adding in a penalty for not finishing by end of December. They bid on finishing by the end of December. And at the last meeting, Janet said that they were hoping to be wrapped up Friday and then just returning right after the first of the year to clean their equipment up. Again, it seems to be that way, but it appears in the contract, there's no penalty for finishing late, so it just noted that they bid on being done by the end of December, took off for their Christmas time that they took off after the 23rd, did not return until today, and they're still gonna need another week to complete. And there's no penalty for them. Like, is that,
To my understanding, we may have discussed it, but I don't think that we, like you said, we did not write any penalty in understanding that it was that there was weather potential when we did it. I would need Janet to answer questions specific to where things stand exactly, because she's the one who's in contact with.
I think I'm just, I don't have the details in front of me, but I believe that they were one of the earliest, if not the earliest completion date. So, we were anxious to get it completed, and, adding a penalty really didn't come on our radar, as I recall. Because the bid was early, completion date was early, and, it is later than they said they would, but it's still within a reasonable time, so.
I don't necessarily agree with the reasonable time, just that they took off time and said that they were hoping to be done by Friday before Christmas, and that wasn't the case. They still needed at least another week to do work from. Just a little disappointing, but.
We can definitely have Janet look and see if there was anything that was finally put into it, but I don't believe that that it has the vote to have a penalty written into it. But we'll check on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We had a motion in a second?
We did.
Yeah. Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just used to having these. Yeah, the rally. No appointments tonight. My only comment, other than Happy New Year, is it also made me realize that probably with the new year, it's time to start looking at the Islesboro Looking Ahead document. So, I'll plan to dig that out and start to take a look, but just would ask folks, thinking about it coming onto the agenda over the next month or so, to be thinking about, areas that we want to make sure are included. And we'll send out something out for folks to take a look at.
Awesome.
What do we need to sign here?
It's on the clipboard, that's just
Oh,
the backup
okay.
documentation.
Oh.
But whoever usually signs the payroll warrants needs to do so. Me. Lauren?
Oh, Happy New Year, everyone. Here we are in 2024. We made it.
Made it, another trip around the sun, I guess. I'm in the haze of the first day back to school, so like, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about much.
Melissa, last word?
Happy New Year.
Alright, well, thank you to everybody here and online who hung in with us. Motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor?
Hey.
It was unanimous, even if Pete's not looking up.
I'm trying to find this Farley, sorry.